Hi guys, Jennifer from Scrapping Under the Influence. Today I'm going to show you how I design shaped mini albums using Cricut Design Space. We're going to go over the design of, if I can get it centered here, the Woodland mini album that I've got the tutorial filmed for. So for this came from the Campin' Critters cartridge within Design Space. It's not too extreme of a shape because that's one thing you do want to avoid, and I'll kind of show you how I pick images that I can use for a mini album. And, excuse me. And how to determine if the image you're thinking of using is going to work or not. So let's go to Design Space, and we're going to just pick a couple of different images here. I've got this filtered, so I'm only showing images that are available in Access, just so that if you are trying to do this yourself and have access, I'm not showing you it on an image that you're going to have to buy in order to be able to make an album. So let's see here. Let's find. That one. Okay, that. Let's do. Okay. So I've got 4 different images here. I'm going to move these 2 off to the side for now. And we're going to start with these 2 little campers here. So first thing you need to do is decide, really even before you decide on which image you're going to use for the base of your album, you really need to kind of decide on what size you're going to do. I have found just through trial and error that when it comes to shape mini albums, larger tends to be a little bit easier to work with and a little bit more forgiving. So in this case, we're going to make this one, actually we're going to do this one by height instead of width. I'm going to make this one 8 inches high. Nope, that's too big. Let's try this one 6 inches high. And you do have to kind of play with this a little bit just to kind of get it where you want it. And then I'm going to do the same thing with this one, just so you can kind of see. So the easiest way, I'm sorry, I'm totally losing my voice today. The easiest way to determine if a shape you're going to use is going to work is to just go into shapes here and just take a square and then size it to whatever size you want the inside pages to be. So in this case, we're going to make it 7 inches wide by 5 inches high because that's just slightly smaller than the pages in the Woodland album that I have done the tutorial for. They're actually 7.5 by 5.5. But you can see here that no matter where we place this album, this shape on top of this image, it doesn't line up where you're going to be able to have those pages completely inside the image. Even if we flip this the other direction, you've still got that same problem. Now, we could size this down. However, the other thing to keep in mind is as you're creating the album itself, the base for the album, and particularly the spine for the album, unless you're going to do this with binder rings, in which case it leaves you a lot more leeway as far as shapes and sizing and whatnot. Keep in mind that somewhere you're going to have to open this book. So even with this image flipped this other direction, you've still got almost 2 inches on this edge right, well, if I can get it where I'm not selecting the whole thing, on this edge right here that's going to be sticking out and getting in the way when you try to open and close the book. Once again, like I said, trial and error. I figured that out with my farm-shaped mini. As cute as that one is, I ended up having to cut off one of the eaves on the barn because it kept catching on the other eave every time you open the book. Like I said, trial and error. I have not yet, with the hinge-bound minis, shaped minis, tried to do one with shaped pages. The closest I've come to that really was the barn album. And once again, while the finished product was really cute, it used a ton of paper, which is fine, but it also made it very difficult to decorate. Not really decorate, but to do flips and, different little page elements and whatnot, because you have this odd shape you're working with. So when you compare these two little campers, this second one here on the right-hand side would actually be the better choice, because you could get this sized. I can actually go a little bit bigger on that and still not be bigger than the mat. The max width you can cut, width, yes, that you can cut with the Cricut, of course, is 11.5 inches. So, that's about your only real, what's the word I'm looking for here? Limit as far as the overall size of an album is if you've got an image that's going to be wider or taller than 11.5, you're not going to be able to cut it with the Cricut. And honestly, like, this process, really, you could translate this over to Silhouette Studio. I haven't honestly touched my Silhouette in probably 4 years. The only reason I still have it is I've got an advent calendar project that the boxes for it are all in Silhouette Studio, and I've never gotten around to cutting it. I'm going to try to do it for this Christmas, but we'll see if that actually happens or not. But as I was saying, so this one, there's still a little bit sticking out. However, you would be able to bind this in such a way, most likely, if we made this a little bit taller even, where you could bind this right here, where you could put that spine where it would just barely clear where that little trailer hitch is coming out. So, like, for instance, I was going to, for a baby album, I was actually going to use this little circus wagon to do a mini. And this one, once again, you've got a little bit that sticks out here, but on the one edge where you would have the spine, but that's fine because it's not a huge amount. And quite honestly, I could cut this little flag off this side. I could cut the flags off both sides for that matter, so that those wouldn't be interfering either. Which really, if those could stay, as long as when you're opening up the book, when you've got two of these and you're trying to open and close the book, are they going to catch on each other? So if I put this all the way up at the top, well, it'd help if I were at the top of the screen, wouldn't it? And say, I've got about 2 inches in between there. If you figured you had, your spine is going to be about, let's see here, that's a 4-inch spine, so that one's really kind of chunky. If you had a 3-inch spine, you'd be close. You could probably expand this and make this a little bit wider and still leave all of those elements on there sticking out like that, because you could bind it in such a way. And actually, this would be a perfect one to bind the way I do in the tutorial on the Woodland Mini, where this would actually be, the spine is actually going to be behind that, where these two pieces would fold over the spine when you open the book. It's something that honestly I probably should have attempted to do when I did the the Farm Mini, but it was something that I hadn't really thought that far ahead when I was trying that. That one was a total experiment. I hadn't tried to do a shaped mini that was bound before, but something like this fun little autumn image, this is just about perfect to do a shaped mini. In fact, if I have some nice fall themed paper downstairs, I might do one with this, because this would make a gorgeous cover for an album. But I mean, here I'm getting a 6.5, almost 6.5 by 6.5 page inside that. And of course I could size this up some more, so I could get that truly to 6.5 by 6.5. And, you're going to have this gorgeous cover. You're only going to have a little bit that's sticking out on the edge, and it would bind just fine without any problems. But when choosing a shape to do a shaped mini album with, basically that's what you need to keep an eye on and keep in mind as you're picking your shape.